Bargani.
Bargani.
Ujamaa.
Ujamaa. All right.
Yeah, fourth day of
Cooperative economics.
That's it.
Hey. So what is the news about cooperative economics? That's what we're here to share. I'm going to briefly talk about how Ujamaa started, headed some of the ongoing Ujamaa processes, and then ask y'all to share on what you see it for cooperative economics in 2021 and 2022. But first off, Mr. Makalisi, you're going to lead us in candle lighting?
All righty. Well, I'd like to introduce this with a shared screen, if I can.
Please do.
I don't know if you've seen it. It's posted on Facebook that Brother Komsu Nak. And we've heard it before. I've heard before that people saying, you know, you got this kinara, these candles, you're stealing this from the Jews, from the Hebrews. And so
I've heard that too.
Shared with us this image of Pharaoh Amenemhat seated before the sacred Amin-Ra candles. This is 1985 BCE. And so he goes on to say that the Hebrew plagiarism of the Amin-Ra candles became known as the menorah candles. They barely changed the name or the look. And so says the candles, the Kwanzaa candles are a modern restoration of the Africans' Amin-Ra candles.
Excellent.
I was really impressed with that, and with the other words, you know, in a paragraph or two that he had to go with that on the Facebook posting. That brother comes up with a lot of really impactful information.
He sure does. I've read some of his posts that he's posted. Yeah, he brings out a lot of good information.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop the sharing. If I can see how to do it. Stop sharing. Where do you do that?
Okay.
All right.
Disappeared on my screen.
Did it for you, Minister Makalisi.
Okay, thank you. Oh, microphone cord is not long enough. Oh, come on, microphone cord.
If there's an elder. Oh.
Okay. I have this Kinara set up here. And I'd like to just share a thing or two with you. My Kinara is different from a lot of Kinaras that you might see. And the foundation of it is a limb that I found laying on the ground in Nolan Park some years ago. And just the look at it, the shape of it made me say, ooh, that might make a nice Kinara. So I took it home and cleaned it up a bit, and this is my Kinara. Those of you who have my little Kwanzaa book, you might, on the front cover, it disappears there. But anyway, we are lighting these candles. We have 4 candles tonight to light that are, as Komsu Nak says, a rejuvenation of the Amin-Ra candles. I like the way that goes. And so we're going to start with our first candle. First candle is the candle of Umoja. I'm not using matches. I have some battery-powered candles here. Hope you can see them all okay. Umoja, unity, strive for unity in the family, community, nation, and race. I understand that to strive to understand that we are beings made in the image of the Most High, and we deserve to, and need to feel the command to give each other the love and respect that that reality embodies. We are made in the image, the likeness of the Most High. We're to behave in that manner. Then we have Kujichagulia, self-determination. Somewhere it says to behave, to live in this world, but not of this world. That we don't take our directions, our values for life from the junk that goes on all around in this day and age, stuff that pours into us from television, from so-called social media. No, we have a different set of values that grows from that understanding that we're made in the image and likeness of the Most High. And from that reality, we draw the view of what we should do and how we should live. And each of us, all of us, there's an individual as well as a collective dimension to that, that we will define, name, create, and speak for ourselves rather than be defined, named, created for, spoken for by others. Then we have Ujamaa, collective work and responsibility. That with that foundation of Umoja, that foundation of Kujichagulia, that we do all we can to reach out to help our sisters and brothers with whatever challenges and problems they have. We'll work together with sisters and brothers, and whatever problems they have, we'll work together to solve them, to bring that energy of the Most High, of the essence of the Most High to bear, to bring that consciousness that we're not going to be tied up with the individualistic, selfish values and behaviors of the world. We're going to work with our sisters and brothers for whatever challenges, whatever problems they have, do all we can to help them solve them and find the greatest good that is possible. And on this day, we're here to honor, to celebrate, to grow in knowing Ujamaa, cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores and shops and other businesses, those things that we need for our greatest good, put together the resources that are in our hand and under our controls, to bring those things into being, to maintain their existence, and to build their impact, their influence on our families and our community, on our people, not only on these shores, but all over this world. So this night, this evening, we are celebrating, we are honoring, we're seeking to grow in knowing Ujamaa, cooperative economics. Ashe.
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 Elders, may I proceed?
Indeed, proceed. Ashe.
Thank you. Okay, we should start at that word, Ujamaa. Ujamaa is part of the NGUZO SABA, which is a US African synthesis. And in naming our principle, we needed our word, because bringing in our oppressors' words would just invoke their ugly meanings, the ugly things they associate with economics. Our oppressors constantly push the lie that economics are neutral, but we know how they use it to impose their money first culture. And we have to deal with money's effects on every part of our people first culture. We need to get that straight. That's why we focus on Ujamaa. And MIT Malik is going to give us a word about one of our foremost leaders in Ujamaa, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. Baba Malik?
Thank you, MIT Bill, Uncle Jobs, Neb family. In keeping with the best of our African traditions, it is customary to seek the permission of an elder to continue, and I seek that permission.
Brother Malik, come forward with the words that you've been inspired to share with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Minister Makalisi. It is an honor to be able to participate in this evening's Kwanzaa celebration, celebrating Ujamaa. And it is said that anything worthwhile, any worthwhile event or ceremony, we should incorporate or invoke the spirits of our venerated ancestors. And we pour water, the source of all life, and we invoke those names. We extend the invitation. We ask them to come and be with us. Then we seek God's approval. We give it power and purpose. We say Ashe, and we win. Now I'm going to start, and then the community, as always, will have the opportunity to invoke an ancestor of their choosing. Tonight's honored, one of our honored ancestors, as MIT Bill just mentioned, is, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Julius Nyerere. Julius Nyerere. So I pour a libation for Julius Nyerere, who chose the word Ujamaa as shorthand for his leading edge innovations in structuring and defining African economic structures. Structures that shape economic principles and necessities to fit the long evolved cultures and practices of African people. Nyerere had studied economics worldwide and knew Africa needed its own structure, adopted for African people in African context. His system of Ujamaa was and remains the most prominent pioneering economic adaptation in modern African history. Kwame Nkrumah, Brother Sekou Touré, Thomas Sankara, I hope I'm pronouncing this name correctly, and others followed, not copying Tanzania's system exactly, but breathing their own unique spirit of Ujamaa into their societies, fitting the details to their own people, their own culture. Brother Nyerere, he tried to structure the money to serve Africans, to have Africans help Africans, not under others' control. The brother had done his study. He saw how their capitalism, socialism, communism had failed and designed better for Tanzania. They did all they could to make Ujamaa fail, then screamed to everyone that Ujamaa was failing. They overthrew Nkrumah, killed Sankara, killed Lumumba, killed Gaddafi. Sekou Touré had heart trouble in Saudi Arabia. And after he died of a heart attack at age 62 in a US hospital, his duly elected party was overthrown in a military coup. The money first damned the people imperialists, brainwash Americans to think anything socialist is bad, anything capitalist is good. So they keep Americans on board with murdering Africans and destroying African economies to stop socialism. So this evening, join me in invoking the spirit of our brother, our venerated ancestor, Julius Nyerere. And we say, come and be with us. And we pour this down, and we say, come and be with us.
Come and be with us. Ashe.
Ashe, Ashe.
And be with us.
Now at this time, we extend an invitation to the community to invoke an ancestor of your choosing to join us in this celebration this evening. Is there one?
I ask that Marcus Messiah Garvey come and be with us.
Marcus,
Ashe.
Ashe, come and be with us.
Come and be with us. Come and be with us. Come
I invite Amos Wilson, who said, if you're not thinking nation building, then you're not serious in being a Black nationalist. So I invoke his name, Amos Wilson.
Dr.
Ashe.
Amos Wilson, come and be with us.
Come and be with us. Come and be
Ashe.
with us. Ashe.
Is there another?
Come and be with us. Come and be with us.
I listed, in addition to our distinguished brother, Narure, Annie Turnbull Malone. She created a hair and cosmetic empire and had her own brand and branches worldwide. So we say, Annie Turnbull Malone, come and be with us.
Come and be
Ashe.
with us. Come and be with us.
Pour this
Ashe.
libation to Charles Clinton Spalding, the father of African-American management. He owned one of the largest Black-owned businesses in the country. Brother Charles Clinton Spalding, come and be with us.
Come and be with us.
Ashe.
Come and be with us.
Madam,
I'd like to remember Mary McLeod Bethune, who with $1.50, they say, brought together the forces, brought together the minds, brought together the people to get an educational program, an educational institution going forward. She had the words that she expressed that I am my mother's daughter. And I understood that to mean I am the daughter of Mother Africa. And the drums of Africa still beat in my heart. I'm understanding that to say the messages that are incorporated in those rhythms that are played by the drums are still beating in her heart. And she says, we cannot rest until every one of our children, every boy and girl is given an opportunity to show their worthiness. And so we need her spirit to come and be with us so that we can keep building the programs and institutions by which we can teach our children who they are and what they have potential to be. Mary McLeod Bethune, come and be with us.
Mary McLeod Bethune, come and be with us. Ashe.
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 My grandfather, Henry Silas, World War I veteran, came back to Mississippi, owned land, had turpentine businesses, and who knows how many businesses. My mother's tried to explain them all to me, but I want to honor him. Henry Silas, come and be with us.
Henry
Ashe.
Silas, come and be with us.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe.
I asked that Dr. George Washington Carver and the genius that he brought to Tuskegee with his work with the sweet potato and the peanut, that genius come and be with us, that we too may go out and create businesses and endeavors. Come, Dr. Carver, and be with us this evening.
Dr. Carter, come and be with us. Ashe.
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 Ashe. Ashe.
I would like to bring an ancestor in. I'd like to bring in the Honorable Booker T. Washington, the brother who was totally dealing with building a self-sufficient people, self-reliance, do for self, a man who was misunderstood and so many times did not get the recognition for all the greatness that he's done. He inspired Marcus Garvey, and he went all over Africa creating lots of Tuskegees. With that, I want to say thank you.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Dr. Booker T. Washington, come and be with us.
Come and be
Ashe.
with us.
I'd like to invite my maternal grandmother, Effie Poe Brown, who was born in 1900 and throughout all of her adult life until she retired, she created her own businesses. She never worked for anyone. She was always her own boss. Effie Poe Brown, come be with us.
Come and be with us.
Ashe.
Oh, Brown, come and be with us.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ooh, Ashe. Ooh, Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Is there another?
I'd like to call forth my grandfather, Vernon Smith, the first Black man in Fort Scott, Kansas, to own a business and actually operate a brick and mortar store. And he never worked for anyone else but himself all his life. Ashe.
Ashe.
Vernon Smith, come and be with us.
Ashe.
Is there another? If there are no others, let us all join in 3 ashes for the venerated ancestors that were uttered aloud and the ones that are deep inside our heart and our soul and our spirit. Come and be with us. Ashe.
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 Ashe-o.
Ashe.
Thank you, community.
Hey, thank you, Baba Malik. Baba Malik just told us how well Julius Nyerere was received by all those blonde folk in the West and how they went about crushing every other leader in Africa, trying to constitute an economics for their own people, something that fit rather than exploited their own people. But Mwalimu Nyerere was actually a professional educator. He was a teacher. He understood very, very well. And through his genius, he was able to be elected several times in Tanzania and survive all the assaults from all the Western powers. Meanwhile, as Ujamaa was being adapted across Africa, we Africans in the US, in the belly of imperial capitalism, also knew that Ujamaa was important for us. So our scholars integrated Ujamaa as one of our core 7 principles. We were actually embracing Kujichagulia, beginning to define ourselves and name ourselves. The name Ujamaa or Ujamaa best describes defining our economics for ourselves. So those two actually go together. As we come together and define ourselves, Ujamaa is the part where we define how we handle our trade, how we handle our money, how we handle our exchange, how we define our own economics. Okay, Nyerere started in the 60s. We're 60 years later, 3 generations from Nyerere's Ujamaa now. So what we ask up front is, what's the news? What's the news of Ujamaa? What's the new part? Our people didn't do all that hard work and study for us to just admire Ujamaa. We need to apply Ujamaa. So exactly how in 2021, 2022 is different from 1962. How are we adapting cooperative economic principles now? 2022 is very different from 62. Whole world is more digital, more quantitative, more explicit, and more formal. So where are we adapting our Ujamaa spirit, making Ujamaa real in explicit, quantitative, formal ways? I should begin with an example at home. Pressured by the brutal racism in Georgia, Charles and Shirley Sherrod birthed a formal US legal structure known as a land trust. Yeah, they were the first in Georgia. And yes, it was that Shirley Sherrod, same one who was fired over the phone by her boss at USDA, same Shirley Sherrod whose community group, Acorn, was hit by an elaborate made-up clown show to fabricate some excuses to force Acorn out of existence. Still, the Sherrods are very resilient, very strong people. And they still run a group called New Communities, Inc., still in Albany, Georgia. Closer to home, we have the East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative, and we have the Sustainable Economies Law Center. And they're fighting even now using the same land trust mechanism that the Sherrods created in the late 60s to get more space dedicated to housing. not just leaving it idle to inflate prices for land speculators. We should be clear how Ujamaa is not what oppressors frame as a system dictated only from the top. It's not top-down capitalism, it's not top-down communism, it's not top-down socialism. It's lots of small adaptations to the culture to make money work for the people. Not subprime mortgages and mortgage-backed securities and other tricks to keep people working indefinitely for money the Fed just prints for big corporations. We should be clear on those explicit, quantitative, formal types of cooperative economics in process right now. Cooperative economics has been implemented as formal cooperatives, but our increasingly digital world means greater importance on those long-standing forms. So let me show you, I got a little slide to share, and we can talk about some of those forms. So, let's try that. One more time. We'll try sharing. Sharing, resume sharing. There we go. So there are consumer cooperatives, and those are things where consumers bundle their assets, pool their resources to provide for themselves some service that they require. And by providing it for themselves, they get to adjust the details and not pay for a middleman. So we have retail co-ops where people come together to put up stores, cooperatively own and operate those things, and sell the foods and goods that they select. And again, retain more of the money that would otherwise go to middlemen. We have housing co-ops. People pool their resources, buy land, and develop it at their own pace to their own design so they can have precisely what they want and not pay quite as much for construction managers and other middlemen who would take a share of the money and money that they would have to pay in the long term just to have a place to live. One of the other really important things about that cooperative housing arrangement is that by arranging the housing cooperatively, people frequently decide, oh, well, I don't necessarily want to cook in my own kitchen every day. Maybe we should have a group kitchen and we can run it and feed ourselves on a routine basis. Now, this is very much what colleges and universities have done for a long time, but at a college, things are still quite public, not quite personal. And it's all mediated by fees and tuition, and states get involved, and it's quite a bit messier. Where people have come together to do housing co-ops, they simplify things and only deal with the things that they need. Maybe a shared gym, a shared workspace, shared kitchen, etc. That way they can keep it simple and still retain some of that money and build unity amongst their friends and community. Now, one of the most common things that we know about is a financial co-op. We typically call that a credit union. And that's where folks pool their money to loan out when they need to friends and other participants in the credit union and minimize the overhead to just what they need to pay the staff and keep the buildings open. So instead of those profits going to a profit margin for a bank, they can push that money back as higher interest on the money that they're saving. They can use that money instead of profits to loan out to people in their communities that need the money. All of those, let me go back for a second, all of those are actually consumer cooperatives. They are designed to pool some assets so that consumers get the services and goods that they need. There are other kinds of cooperatives. There are producer cooperatives, where in effect, as you see, one of the biggest examples is Blue Diamond Almonds. It's a huge cooperative, but what that stems from is farmers who were only medium-sized farmers way back when it started, didn't want to be exploited by millers and processors who would take their crop and mill it or process it and bring it to market, but charge them excessive fees and keep most of the profit for themselves. By creating the cooperative, Blue Diamond Almonds and others, they get to retain all of that value throughout the stream, all the way from the plants that they're growing to the consumers who are actually buying their almonds. So that's generally the theme with producer cooperatives. The producers, who in this case, in the case of almonds, are producing directly from the ground, go ahead and pool their resources so that they can process and reach all the way to the consumer without having to share the profits with middlemen. That also makes the whole enterprise more resilient because, in fact, every producer has a stake in the whole cooperative succeeding. Unlike a mill who might decide that, well, this farmer or that farmer, they just can't cut it by. Where the farmers are working together, or in other producer cooperatives, the producers look after each other. And this is a similar thing with worker cooperatives, where workers own the whole process. They tend to be less harsh with each other about hiring, firing, about work criteria. They understand that they are people, they are peers conducting a process together, not necessarily maximizing profit to send off to some shareholder far away. In Oakland, maybe near some of the folks on this call, there is a Mandela Grocery, which is itself a worker-owned cooperative. And even more famously, there is Arizmendi Bakery, which is in Oakland and is a worker cooperative running a bakery. So, what are your feelings about cooperatives? Where should we be going now? What are the things that you've seen in terms of cooperatives in your space? Participants?
Hello,
Anyone?
MIT Bill.
Yes?
Hi, it's Rana here.
Yes,
So
please.
I would come from, I guess, two positions, one of them being hearsay, because the time that you spoke of is around when I was born. But I listened to my mom talking about, and just briefly on this side of it, during her era and her childhood and growing up, and how farmers, business owners, people with money, people with small amounts of money, all did come together in a very cooperative fashion to have businesses and support each other's businesses. And very much because the communities were more segregated, even if not necessarily through forcible segregation, they kind of were that way. You kind of want it to be that way as much as anything. That there were a lot of things like town hall meetings and community meetings, even if they weren't formally called that seemed to me to be woven through a lot of things. So when I think of a really big thing that's missing now, I always think of that part of it, the part of it where there were meetings and gatherings and opportunities to talk about what's needed and how we're going to do it, and the actual players being at the table. Not that you had to then go back to the city or back to the state or to somebody else in order to get the funds. The players were at the table who were going to be providing the funds. The worker bees were in the room who were going to volunteer some of their time towards it. The people who had other businesses that had things that they could supply and support, so that you didn't have to go outside of that room in order to start something, to me is one of the most important things from then, one of the things I see as an obvious piece that's missing now, and therefore one of the things I think we need to somehow find a way to incorporate going forward.
I think that's exactly right. Yes. In fact, what we hear all the time in terms of businesses is venture capitalists and folks making pitches. But what MIT Rana was saying actually sounds a lot better, where the stakeholders and the people investing are right there at the table from the start. I haven't personally seen that, but I'm glad you have, Sister Rana. That was in Oakland?
What I'm speaking of is stories my mom told me about her upbringing and how things were done when she was younger.
Okay.
That people were, like I said, that all the players were in the room, all the players were at the table, different levels of people, from people who had little money to the people who had some levels of small businesses and saved some money, to the doctors and lawyers that had made it to that level were in the group. There were all levels in the room. So like I said, what needed to be done, the hands were shaken, the deals were made in that room, and it at least got you up and going. And then if at some later point more was needed, you already at least had the footing to be able to present that to go forward. Now you might have to battle with somebody to get that next big bank loan or whatever it might have been, but you could at least get something up and moving and going. And if you really stuck to it, you could keep it.
Yeah, so it sounds like actually those who were invited to the meeting were invited really on a basis of a willingness to participate and to contribute whatever they had.
Agreed.
Not necessarily because they were big money venture capitalists or because they were the bright whiz with a new tech idea, but really much more based on that spirit of willingness to participate in the economic process.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would like to add something.
Please.
To follow up with what Sister Rana is saying. I'm from Tuskegee, Alabama, and a lot of things, and there was a lot of unity in the South during certain periods of time, particularly during the civil rights movement. My parents were very active with that. And I could give an example from way back would be well, first, before I say that, I would like to say that we talked about unity, and we had a conversation about unity the other day. And one of the things that I felt was, as I thought about it, was that you need to really come down to the smallest common denominator, that one thing that people really agree on. Like, for example, back in the day, it was the Montgomery bus boycott. People came to a decision that they really, did not want to be discriminated against anymore. They were feeling, oppressed by the activity, and they decided, and it was a firm decision, regardless of the classes, whether there were professors or at college campuses, people that were just everyday workers. Everybody was on one common accord with one common thing, that we want to unify on this one point. So it was nothing that created the unity. And one of the examples I wanted to give from today, I had made mention on one of the Black Knowledge Matters Wednesdays, that the Buy Black movement, I'm very familiar with people here in Atlanta. The founders of one of the movements is here, and that's a perfect example of what Rana's saying, because the people who are part of that, not only do they have products or services within that, they shop and support each other. So when they come together and meet and have conversation, they have a common interest. That common denominator is ownership and, buying for self. And I also was a member of MATA with Ken Bridges, and that was another Black they had Black distribution. They had it all: products, distribution, and, ownership. So that's my contribution.
So we're talking about not just starting things, but people who sort of broadly agree to support each other's ongoing business, whether it just started or it's been in existence for a good time, if it's considered part of the community, essentially going out of their way to make sure it's supported. Yeah.
That's a good point, MIT Bill. And I would just add at this point, because of what you had mentioned earlier about setting up credit unions and things of that nature. Some of us in the we'll say community are part of an investment group that's based in Mississippi. It's called the New African Investment Association. And they're working along the exact same lines where they're using money to invest in small local businesses. And I've been quite impressed with their work and with the vision that the brother that came out here and introduced us to this investment association, the vision that they have. They're kind of a small knit group. Anybody just can't go in. You really have to be recommended. But I don't think Sister Connie would mind if I say that Sister Connie Bridgeford is our spokesperson here on the West Coast. This association is in Mississippi, but they're doing some good work down there. And the concept and idea is one that we all here in California, when we spoke with the brother, agreed with. It was something that we could support. It was very much in line with the concept of Ujamaa. And I think it may be worthwhile for if anyone is interested to contact Sister Connie Bridgeforth and speak to her about it. And she can give you more the ins and outs about it, because like I said, you have to be recommended to get in this association. But I do believe it's worthwhile. And I would hope that at some point, perhaps not this year, but preferably sometime this year, if not sometime soon, where the Wose community, where we get involved in promoting more of our own products and artifacts, so that our members in different parts of the country can have access to those. And for a short time, we did have an online store. And so I would hope that we could restart something like that again, to make these things accessible, as well as provide a few monies for the Wose community.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. And thank you. I mentioned the credit unions, but that what you're talking about, people pooling their money to do investments, that's a similar financial service where you put your monies together so you can do more than you could isolated. And in fact, Wose might be able to partner with others to make real for us some of this mass customization we keep hearing about. There are new tools to do things in very custom ways that used to be really expensive, but aren't anymore. So maybe we should be applying our African talent to those things as well.
Absolutely, if I may. We have to spend time to do this. We have to study, if we're going to look at it in the Bay Area or in California, find some organizations that are doing some things that are making sense, and not have this attitude that, I got to make a 20% profit on this tomorrow. No, this is something that we'll be able to invest our time, our talents, our resources in, because we have a larger picture of what's going on and how the success is going to be beneficial for us as a people, and work on it to find organizations who have solid programs and really committed members, and find those that we can work with and become part of that group of committed members. And so it's going to take time. And in this capitalistic system that we're in, it's really going to take some time, because the capitalists always come out with their stuff and they tell you, oh, this is better than that, this and that and the other. But we have to make a decision. No, we're not going that path. We are not going that path. Cooperative economics will not exist if we keep falling victims to those robbers. That's what they are. They are robbers, and they're doing all they can to keep us impoverished. And so we have to make the move. We have to find the folks. I was reading an article just the other day that was talked about Africans in America. African American population is the 7th most wealthy population on the planet. But we don't have the kind of self-controlled Ujamaa operations going on that reflect that. We just squander our money in anything, any carrot on the stick they dangle. Oh, we gotta have one. We gotta have one that's better than the carrot you got off the stick, and so forth. And so and so we just have to give some more time and attention to cooperative economics. If all we can do is talk about it, well, let's talk about it effectively to the people that need to hear it, so we can begin convincing more and more of our people in small steps. There's got to be some change. There's got to be some change. If you can only invest $1 into that this week, this month, this year, maybe next year you can do 5 or 10, and we get more and more people that can do that. And so we have to find those organizations that are already making good steps in the right direction, and have the trust enough. And that's another one of the problems that we've had organizations where we got our folks that ripped us off, and we respond to that more than we respond to the white establishment ripping us off, and so it just makes it more difficult. But we have to put some time, energy into making that change, and so we can talk about all this and talk about it. But if we don't give ourselves that on our agenda, a cooperative economics commission, whatever we might call it, that this is our work, to find those places, those people, those organizations that make sense for us in terms of our principles, in terms of our goals and our mission, and work with them, we become, if we give stories of who we are. I mean, we have this school, and it didn't fall in our laps. We worked on it, but it's just got to be given real time, real attention. I want to share with I was a member of the Allen Temple Baptist Church some years ago when they started a credit union, and it didn't last long. I don't know. I wasn't really involved with it. I don't know what happened, but the membership at Allen Temple was a fairly well, economically speaking, people with salaries and so forth and so on. But for somehow, they just couldn't make it work, and I don't think it lasted even a year. So it just takes some dedication, And so if we're going to have this on our agenda, if we really believe in cooperative economics, we're going to have to put together that committee, that commission that's going to be working on it diligently and finding avenues by which we can make it blossom.
Find those small steps so we can move forward productively.
Absolutely.
MIT Malik.
Thank you, Bill. Just to add on to some of the comments that have already been made, I always think about a multi-pronged approach on various levels. One, I agree with you about the concept of co-ops. In effect, in reality, Chinatown basically was started on that same concept of cooperative economics. And we don't even have to look outside of our own selves. We can look at Tulsa, Oklahoma, and other examples. We've done this before, and we must do it again. And we just have to make it a priority. But at the very least, we have to be able to take care of our basic necessities, food, housing, and clothing. Because when those three things, at least, are in the hands of outside of our community, it makes us vulnerable. And any day in this country, with all the uncertainty going on the political front and other fronts, we really can't take that for granted much longer when we're not able to take care of our own basic necessities, those three things. Dr. Clark talks about it as well. And I always see the the concept of African town. You know, that should not be something that is seen as being far-fetched. And I think I talked about this when I gave a message about, we start with owning the businesses in our community. After all, the businesses in our community depend on our economic support to remain open. If they're not Black owned, we have the power to make them Black owned. If we were really serious about, you know, a nation building and nationhood, it doesn't make any sense for outsiders to come into our communities and set up shop, and we continue to be the lifeblood while Black businesses are basically, you know, headed by Black women entrepreneurs with, you know, basically one employee. And if you go back on what Minister Michaelisi had mentioned, when the GDP, you're 7th on the GDP in the world, yes, and that's despite the wealth gap. And like you said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are other organizations that are already doing some of these things. Bobby mentioned some things and others as well, but we should join with them. But we have to make it a priority and actually put, you know, pen to paper, you know, and start putting these things into place and working towards it. And it may not happen in our lifetime, but it could happen in somebody's lifetime in this community on this Zoom set, our children, our children's children. And we've already seen the example. We just have to follow them. And the last thing I'll say is this, and this conjures up a lot of controversy back and forth, but we must never be afraid or ashamed or hesitant to talk about reparations. Economists have estimated this country would owe the descendants of enslaved Africans somewhere around $12 trillion. Now, some say we can't even do this, how are we gonna work on that? Well, we gotta be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Reparations-
40 million of us.
I'm sorry?
There's 40 million of us. Of course we can do a few things at the same time.
Absolutely. And reparations can't be that little thing we keep kicking, like the can you keep kicking down the street. You know, they said in 2014, you had 2 members in Congress that supported. Well, today, according to what I read, there's 142 members of Congress. Everyone has been given reparations as a redress when this country or other countries have transgressed against them, except us. And we must never think that's something. I don't know about you guys, but I could use 12 trillion, okay? That probably gives a conservative estimate. It's probably 100 trillion, but that's a start. So all those things that have already been laid out, the reparations got to always be, it has to be top shelf. You know, it has to be top shelf. We cannot just overlook that like, you know, it's no big deal. Everybody, indigenous people, Native American, Jewish people, Asian Americans have all received some form of reparations, and so we deserve it as well.
Sure.
I
would like to say,
oh, it's a battle.
Please.
Okay. No. Go ahead, Mom. Go ahead.
I want to thank Brother Bill for bringing up all of the ideas. I think that's a big help to at least have some ideas on the table of some of the things that you can do that is going to bring money into the community. And I'm also thankful that Malik mentioned Tulsa, but you know, the thing of what's happened with our people, we've been so influenced, which is the plan is on the table and under the table at all times against us. Because not only was it Tulsa, it was Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee, it was the Hill in Philadelphia, it was 7th Street in Oakland, California, and I went to Oklahoma City. Black people had oil pumps pumping in their yards and getting money off that, but yet the real person with the biggest money was somebody else out there in the oil fields. So we've got, I have been thinking for many years, it should be a united prayer among all Black people. I think we should find a prayer that we say together at a certain time, every Black person that can open their mouth and can think, that say together to get these people out of our face, get them out of our pathways. And if we want to say that prayer is so great and prayers are answered, I think this is one of the first things that we need to do is come up with a universal Black prayer. We want this stuff to stop. We just keep going year after year, century after century, the same subjects discussed over and over. If we believe in that Black prayer, if we believe in those villages and people in Africa that of what they were doing and how they did it, we need to do that. We need to pray. We need to ask for our people's minds to be turned around, for them stop being a guinea pig for everybody and all these other. And the reason it's us that they're always doing it. It's us that they don't want to have our power back. It's us. The others are all under us as far as where we came from. It's not meaning that we're any better. It just means that we are closer to God and we're heeding God's word more than anybody else. And
As we understand ourselves as representing and manifesting God here, we need to speak to God.
And I'm very sorry, you guys, I may have the wrong idea, but we need to stop including Jews as we know them today. Those are to me, is our biggest enemy. They are trying to take our place in this world. And that is why every time somebody open their mouth and say anything about them, anti-Semitism, you are beat with a stick every time. So we've got to understand, and I'm sure a lot of you read the book on the relationship between the Blacks and the Jews by the Muslims, and I can't think of it right now, the other book the young professor wrote about how he was attacked by the Jew community. Once you say anything about them, no matter what type of Jew it is, as long as it's a Eurocentric mind, and the ones that help with all the financial slave ships. So this is why we gotta stop realizing we need to stop pulling the wrong people into this crowd. And I know that there are minorities and all of that, that's fine. But the Jews, we've got to look out for them in my mind, and it's always been in my mind all of my life. And if you watch them and read about them, you will see that. I wish I could think of the name of the book, but the young professor, they just tried to put him out of his job that had been there for years. And because he was teaching his book, reviewing the book of the relationship between the Blacks and the Jews that was put out by the Muslims. So they all came together to destroy this man. And that's what they do anytime you say anything. And just like this past year, they were talking to the United States, my understanding, was supposed to stop sending all of that money to support Israel. But yet it came back. It's supposed to be now like 6 million or 6 billion that they're talking about sending again. So we need to know that something has to be behind the fact that these people they have gone all over the world, destroying and cheating, and in the Muslim book, they tell you all of the country that those people have been put out of because they go in there with these cheap materials and come up with these cheap businesses and lying to the people and putting up little businesses that's inferior materials. Well, anyway, let me shut up.
We need to make sure that our people are working through our principles, through our culture, to reinforce our culture and strengthen our people. That's what we're talking about, Ujamaa, making sure our money is working for us. Mr. Amadi.
Can I say something to the Queen Mother?
Oh, please.
No need to apologize. You're amongst family, and the truth should always be told, no matter how it falls. But I think you're referring to Mark Lamont Hill, when you said the young professor, Queen Mother Thurston. Is that who you're referring to? Mark Lamont Hill?
No, that's not the one, but I think I'm sorry.
Right, well, you're amongst family.
I see. Mr. Amadi?
It's the onslaught of the Jews is the name of the book. And he's a professor, and I can't think, at the Wellesley College. The onslaught of the Jews, and he's a professor at Wellesley College.
That was on his curriculum.
Ashe, well, he certainly wasn't the first one. There's been a lot of our scholars that have been really attacked, even our politicians, Black politicians,
right?
Who have tried to speak up about certain situations. They've actually told them, well, you might as well forget it because you're not going to be in office anymore. I know it was a Black congresswoman that happened to. I can't remember her name. So yeah, well, I agree with all that has been said. The main thing being priority, that, we do have to prioritize, cooperative economics. And thank you, Brother Bill, for, giving us all these different models, these different forms, educating us today in just different forms of cooperative economics, because that is the one form of economics that is compatible with our culture as Africans. That, we believe in, communalistic, cooperative cultures and, or endeavors. That's our culture. And so I wanted to just thank you for that. And then I want to I'm a student of Amos Wilson. And so when he talked about, I want to just interject this idea that he said, economics is not about money. Economics, he says, is about relationships.
Yeah.
Because when you have relationships, then you can create money. It's about, as Minister Makalisi shared when he said, trust. If we could trust each other, if we could depend on each other, then, we can build together. We don't have to have any money, because even if we don't have money, we could exchange what we do have, and we could work together. We could then generate money. So I wanted to just, reiterate that point, that the focus of economics, as I learned from Amos Wilson, is relationships. And, again, from just listening to you, Minister Makalisi, and how you shared how, we'll say, Oakland got their building. Well, that was a great example of cooperative economics right there, where you guys just trusted. You guys knew you were trustworthy. You were in an environment where you could trust each other. Nobody wasn't trying to cheat anybody, and you could have never probably created that kind of a cooperative approach if you guys didn't know each other and trust each other. So I think that's very important that we understand and that we build trust amongst ourselves. A key element in that is accountability. We have to be able to say, no matter, even though you're my friend, even though I love you, I still have to hold you accountable to certain standards and business principles. That, it isn't about friendship here. We all love each other, but still and yet accountability factors are very important. And then I'll finally just end with, so what I think would really help us in creating economic systems, if we could just, take it upon ourselves to be impeccable with our word and on time with our commitments.
Okay.
I mean, if we could just have that kind of a reputation, those people over there, I mean, when they tell you, they mean it. Or, if they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. They're going to do it when they say they're going to do it. Wow, we could, if we had that, if we as a people, as we begin to establish that kind of reputation, then it would be no limit to what we could do economically, because we dependable, we could trust each other, and that would be the foundation for building whatever amount of money we have. We'll piece it together because we know that we're going to be able to work together. And if we hold each other accountable, that means those people, because we have predators in our community. We have predators, and we have people, we have sellouts. And so we have to say, we have to hold each other accountable. And then that just proves, if somebody want to hold you accountable, that just proves your integrity. If they want to watch you and tell you got to do certain things, that's not against you. That gives you an opportunity to prove your integrity. So that's my part I wanted to contribute to the conversation.
May I speak if there's no one in line?
Sister Darnisha had her hand up anyway.
Yes.
But you're on mute, Sister Darnisha.
I was gonna say, I will defer to Sister Rana and speak after.
Okay.
And that's good, because I was just going to ask Mama Danisha and Sister Michelle to not run away, because I was going to reference both of you. So I'm glad you're next. Okay. So I'm gonna bounce all over the place right here, but I'll try to do it quickly. So one of the things that immediately came to mind in listening to different people and speaking about some of the things that we need to do, some of the things that we need to be more active with, more boots on the ground with, is the fact that, and I apologize if I say the headings wrong, but I believe that we do have a Pan-African Commission or Pan-African Affairs person on our circle, our elders group, our Council of Elders. There's a position that has some sort of a name like that. And I believe there is also another one that is a community outreach position. And again, without thinking line by line of what's on the expectations, if you will, for those positions, I would think that both of those are ones who could be feeding to Rose information about new businesses in the community, new opportunities in the community, things that we could be involved in, things that are out there that could be helping us. So the infrastructure is in place to be able to be more active in real time. It's just a matter of utilizing that infrastructure, because like I said, I'm not sure what those positions are called, but I think there's like a community outreach position. I think there's also, or commission. I think there's also a Pan-African position or commission. And I would think both of those would be able to provide us some information. Also, one of the things when I think about circles and why I said in my vision or version of circles, there is a political liaison or a person who is active in the community politically. And that's so that people can know in the area where they are, what's going on that's affecting their neighborhood, what's going on that's affecting their schools, what's going on that's affecting their local businesses. And they would have an opportunity to vote appropriately according to who's supporting those type of things. So I know it may have seemed weird to some people when I was like, we need a political activist in, I'd love to seed each circle with some core things. Well, that would definitely be one of them, because your vote does matter, but only if you actually tick the box, right? I also thought about the reparations thing that Baba Malik was saying, and never be afraid to speak about reparations and what have you. And I do think that there is some level of, I don't know what it is, so I don't want to use the wrong word, but something in our community where we feel like asking for, demanding, supporting, marching for reparations. I don't know if there's this thing that people feel like it's looking for a handout, if people feel in some way they don't want to be seen in that light, but there's definitely something that goes along with fighting for reparations that turns a lot of people off in our community. And they'll talk about it in small circles and small groups, but once that group gets too big, it becomes something that's very quiet and people don't want to discuss it. And I think that's something that we need to get past. And also, just like whoever said it, and you might be whoever, quit frowning, just like somebody said, and it might have been my mom, that at one time, or that there were only a few people who were pro reparations within the college, and then now there's 100 and some odd within the senators or whomever that are supporting reparations. But here's the thing, anybody can put anything on their ticket. And when we look at the ticket, we say, oh, they're for reparations, so that's going to be one of the things that sways me to voting for them. But then if we don't hold them accountable for it, if we don't write and say, okay, what have you done for me? You've been in that office for 4 months now, or 5 months, or 6 months, and what's going on? Then it's just the thing that's going to get them through on the next vote, right? It's just the thing that's going to get them reelected with no real movement towards that actual thing happening. So we have to have a political component to those things that we do, that's even if each and every one of us don't consider ourselves political, we have people in place that we trust who can say, okay, people, this is what we need to do. And I'm going to explain to you why this is what we need to do, or who we need to write. And then we all collectively do that so that we can stand behind those things, because they can say I'm for reparations all day and never take one single step in that direction. Earlier, Bill, you spoke about things like crowdfunding and things like that, the meetings where people go to, and there's lots, I'm not sure if it was crowdfunding or the other term where people go with the big checkbooks, and it's to get money for the okay. So, oh man, okay. So the thing is, again, we can't be shy of things that we don't necessarily do on a daily basis, right? And sometimes it means that we have to restructure them in a way that is more comfortable to the way we like to do things, right? I've been to several of those different gatherings, all up and down through Fremont. That was the main place where a lot of crowdfunding meetings were tucked away. Very often you didn't even know what it was that you were going to see or hear about until you were in the event and the doors were closed. And then it was put out there, this is what we're looking to get money for today. And the wallets and phones and whatever would come out, and the money would start flying, right? But the thing is, and what we need to understand is, not everybody in that room was a millionaire. Not everybody in that room was even in six figures. Some people in that room may have been making $50,000, $30,000. But yes, there were also the millionaires and the people that were very well off as well. But there's a place for everybody, which is what I'm trying to say. There's a place for everybody to be able to be involved, to be able to contribute, to be able to come in and contribute to something on the level that's comfortable to them. And it all gets the movement that it needs, right? There may be 5 different things being presented in an evening, and there might be some things that they were literally looking for $10 million that night. But there may be other things where they were only looking for $50,000 that night, right? So people who were putting in $500 or $1,000, that money mattered. So I guess that's what I'm saying, is that no matter what financial level you're at, there's a place where those dollars that you have can go in towards a specific cause and can make a difference. And even if that difference might just be to get us to level 1, well, let's get to level 1 and then stand on that to springboard to level 2, right? Okay.
Yes, the innovation may not be some global technology that nobody can reach. The innovation may be awareness of a local situation that nobody else knows about. And that's not necessarily $1 billion expense.
Absolutely. For example, one of the things that was mentioned earlier is the co-op, what's it called, Mommy? The one that co-op. It has a whole name though. But the one that's down on 7th Street that we were spoken.
Mandela Market.
Mandela.
Yeah, the Mandela Parkway. Okay, so for example, with them, they're starting up a second one in East Oakland, right? And a lot of people aren't even aware of that. They're looking for a temporary location to go in now. They're probably already in it by now, and then ultimately to get another location. But again, this all ties back to us having the people who are on these committees, the community Outreach Committee, right? The Pan-African Committee kind of having their fingers on the pulse of what's going on to know what we can be involved in. We may not choose everything. We may not like everything. It may not be a good fit for us, but at least knowing, right? At least knowing what's going on. And then the other thing that my minister spoke about was the accountability. And, you know, I always think of that thing that we have in our book that says, I'm sorry, you guys, my words, I'm trying to get it all out. In our book that talks about how we're supposed to represent ourselves in the face of persecution. And whenever I hear about that, and persecution is one thing, and how we would conduct ourselves and how we would basically be able to stand strong and stand in our conviction and not just basically go buck wild in the face of persecution. But whenever I hear that, I also hear it with regard to criticism, and that, which is very different from persecution. But in that, we are able to be accountable. We are able to hear constructive criticism. We are able to have where our shortcomings might be pointed out in a constructive and loving and private way, so that we might grow and do better and address those things that may be preventing us from getting to that next level, whatever it might be. So that's just something that I think of as well. And then the reason I was going to say Danisha and Sister Michelle is because these are both two, I have no idea whether or not every single person on here has any sort of a business. I apologize, but those two people stand out in my mind as people who I'm aware of the fact that they have business or businesses. And I would love within this that we are able to get some feedback from them just about either some of their positive things that they're experiencing with regard to the community and support, or with regard to some of what the pitfalls might be that they've come across as being actively having businesses that are functioning in our community. So, okay, I'm getting some water now. Or sweet tea, actually. Okay.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate Minister Marty's comment that he just left. And as he was speaking about accountability and trusting and respect, it reminded me of.
I can barely hear you. I don't know if anybody else can hear her, but I can barely hear her.
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. One, when you know, we go through a Black African business, and sometimes things are not treated well, or services, you know, up par,
it's fading.
Or the product isn't up par, we won't go back. But you know, we'll continue to go to white-owned businesses that will give us craft service, et cetera. And you know, and that's something, a mindset that we need to change among some of our people.
We're missing half of what you're saying.
Mama Fania, maybe you could step out and do like an audio check locally, and
okay.
Sister Darnisha, if you'll step in, and you can step back in, Mama Fania, a little bit after.
Mama Fania, it sounds like maybe you have something going on with your connection is what it sounds like. Like maybe your internet might be weak for a minute, or you're in a bad, I know you're always in that spot, so I don't think that's a bad spot, but.
So you still can't hear me?
Now I can hear you much more clearly.
Oh, okay. Okay. I kind of lost my thought, but the second point I wanted to make was our ancestor Noka Rashidi, a statement that he made, maybe about a year or so ago. And he was saying that what he does, if he goes into an African-American or African-owned business, and you know something isn't quite right, either with the service or the product or whatever, he doesn't stop going to that business. He'll either at that point in time, or he'll go back and you know pull the coat of what they're not doing correctly, you know, to support them and to help keep them in business. That's it.
All right, Sister Darnisha.
Um, well, let's see. I'm trying to think of how to respond to Rana's uh, inquiry. I've actually, my business has been pretty well supported by my people. I haven't really found, you know, particularly like with my shea butter and stuff. It's a great product. I get it from great people, and it's kind of. I haven't really had a lot of complaints about patronage from my community. The only things that I have had a little bit of issue with patronage from my community that kind of sometimes frustrates me a little bit is some of the items that I sell that are not exactly high end, but like you guys, most of you have seen my products. So like the Adinkra cloths that I've bought that Mama Fanya has purchased from me. They're beautiful, um, and they're handmade and they're hand stamped, but they cost a little bit. I think they're like $120, and that gives me just a little bit. I am not like one of my biggest challenges as a business. I think I've told you guys before is setting prices. I figure like if I could double my money, that's a good thing. Some people say no, you're supposed to get as much as you possibly can, but I kind of feel bad with 10 times your money. But so I don't set my prices in a way. I set my prices in a way so that I try to, if I can, double. But I have travel expenses and importing expenses. But people will ask me, why aren't these $120 cloths? Like, why aren't these $25? Why aren't these $50? Well, these are handmade goods by our people that came from a long way, and they're unique. These are not, this is not the Kente print from China. But often, like, we don't even know that, like, and that starts a whole different conversation because, like, people don't, it's people just don't know. You see Kente on TV, you can't feel that, you don't know what that feels like. So you don't know really the difference between a beautiful triple weaved Kente cloth and a cotton print. So that kind of I sometimes run into that, and not often, because there are also those of us who do know and who do appreciate. But it's often kind of frustrating for me when other colored people often are much more aware of what it should be and more willing to just, oh yeah, you got that from there. Oh, you went yourself, and and just kind of break it off. Where my people will often say, well, why isn't $25? And then, it's always that, hook a sister up, I got a big family, and I got an aunt and a cousin who love my products, and they purchase, all the time. And then I got 20 others who say, could you send me this? Could you? Now they buy their Nikes, they buy their Air Jordans and stuff, but they ain't got $10 for the shea butter. They want me to pay for the postage and everything. So, but that's, that's a smaller issue, but in general, I feel good about a lot of the support that I get from the community. But what I had my hand up about was piggybacking on what Baba Karubazi had said. I put in the chat that I am a part of that investment group. Brother came from Mississippi and talked with us at Wose, and that's how a number of us got involved. And we got involved as kind of a Wose group. And there's like 4 or 5 of us in Oakland who are a part of that group. They are not really doing that anymore, having like out people in California. We're in a group that is based in Warren County, Mississippi, is where my group is based in. So they're not really doing that so much anymore, but they are actively trying to grow the investment club. And so they have created a new investment club called the Ruby Bridges Club. I'm in the Warren County Club. This is the Ruby Bridges Club, and the Ruby Bridges Club is all remote members. This group, and I'm going to I'll put a link in here about the group. I really don't know as much about the New African group as I should. I did some initial research, saw that there were some cool, rebellious Black folks that have been fighting for a long time, and thought that that was a good place for me to start trying to learn about investing. What they do is we meet every once a month, and they have a very organized meeting. It is, ran very succinctly. and they go over the bylaws to help make sure that everybody in the group understands why we are here, what the rules are, who can do what. My group has about 14 people in it, and us 14 people combined, we have an investment of about $65,000 combined. But there's 10 other groups, and all of the groups combined have about $1 million. They're all the groups are along the Mississippi River Valley. They're all groups of Black people, and mostly, in from my perspective, a lot of elders who are just really understand finance. I don't really understand the stock market that well, but I sit and I listen to these elders in these meetings, and they have discussions, and they talk about what criteria they are using for do we want to buy a different stock? Do we want to sell something? And often I'm just listening, and I'm learning from listening because all of it is so new to me. But it's really, really nice to be able to learn in this kind of an environment with, all of these, elder, people of color who really encourage your questions. They really are, very nurturing. They encourage you trying to learn. So I put my information in the chat earlier on. I'm in the group, but I'm also an individual investor. And so this is, again, as Katabazi said, Baba Katabazi said, you can't just join. A member has to recommend you. I have to spend about an hour reading about 10 pages of bylaws to you to make sure you understand exactly what it is that you are proposing to join. And once you've read all of that and went through that, then you can complete an application, and then 75% of the membership would vote to allow you into a club. So they are actively trying to grow. Our little Warren County hasn't really grown very much in the last year, and that's because they're really actively looking for people who live in Warren County. So they're doing their outreach there, and that's their challenge. But I promised them that I would help through WOZE to also spread the word and promote the online club. So if anybody is interested, you can just email to the regular WOZE info site. Just say that you're interested in the New African Investment Club, and I'll respond back with you. And if 5 of you respond, I'll probably respond back and try to propose a day where we could maybe read through the stuff together. If 1 of you call, then you'll be stuck with a personal phone call from me, and we'll figure out a time when we can Zoom or talk or whatever and just go through it. It's and there's I've just included something about the history of them, and I am not all that up on the history, but they've been doing these things since before I was born in 1968.
Hey.
And last quick thing, because this is Ujamaa Day, cooperative economics, I would be remiss to not just mention, I've said it I think in services before, but when Brother Malik did the workshop on Bitcoin, I guess 2 years ago or so, gave me enough confidence, because I heard it through WOZE. It just kind of gave me enough confidence to put my toes in the water. That has been the best thing that's happened to me through this pandemic. I'm not a millionaire, and I'm going to keep on having to go to work probably for a while. I've dabbled around in tiny little bits of stock. I don't have a lot of money to mess around with, but I've never really seen gains the way these gains are, and they are volatile. You do have to pay attention. It can go up fast and go down fast, but if you're paying attention and you got a little bit of sense about yourself, I've never really seen anything quite like this. I don't know if it'll come again, but I encourage you all. I know it's scary, but don't discount it, because it is not going away. That's it.
Thank you.
Was there one more person that was supposed to?
Yeah, Sister Michelle, please.
I just wanted to respond to MIT Rana's request about people running, businesses. And, I have to say, Sister Karen, when I first mentioned to her, that I did these homemade items, The first thing out of her mouth was, oh, you got to come out to WOSE's fundraising table because we get a chance to meet with the community, and you can come and you can sell your products there. You don't have to go out on your own. Come do this with the church. And that made the transition from, my just selling to family to actually selling to people that I didn't know. And her outreach just, it made it easy. I didn't even really have to think that hard. She helped me on the way. And I can't thank her enough. The community was great prior to COVID. Over time, I found that people have a hard time giving up their name brand for something made, by someone else, who's a brand that they've never heard of. And, getting people to make that jump to say, oh yeah, your jellies, they taste as good as the ones I buy. But they're so used to buying that jelly off the store shelf. It's just, they just don't transition well. They keep buying that, so-called product off the shelf. And so therefore give less opportunities to any small time seller of the same product. And I'm not really sure how we get our people to leave behind something that they've been stuck with for 10 or 20 years, thinking it's a great, safe, something that they love, to something from another person of color and saying, I want to commit to your product. And that's where I have not seen a lot of movement. But
that seems brilliant. That seems brilliant to me. And in fact, a concrete example of what I was trying to say earlier and didn't say as well. And that is where you see there's a small increment someone's producing already, and you can just bring them into a new venue and they can grow in that same space with skills they already have. That sounds perfect.
I see. Well, we've had some good discussion. We had some good discussion, some good presentation.
I would like to say something. I'm sorry, pardon me. I had my hand raised up 3 times.
Okay.
Sister Judy.
One more. Sister Judy, and then Sister Darnisha, and we'll call it an evening. Oh, Baba Damani. Okay, 3 more. Sister Judy?
Okay, thank you. And I do apologize for if I was being rude for popping in like that. Please forgive me. I just wanted to say, I may have missed something, but one of the things that, as I listened to everybody's comments about, is particularly about how do you get someone to buy jellies, for example, or this, the thing I look at is, knowledge is power. And one of the main things is that a lot of our people, we've been going through the years of saying, oh, support Black business. It's, like a cliche at this point, but you really have to look at financial literacy and really getting people to understand not only how money works, how to invest, but also raising the consciousness of how recirculating the dollars back into the community, showing people how and why we need to support our business. We take for granted that a lot of the people in the market out here just understand that we ought to support Black business, and it just sounds good. But really understanding how we take ownership and start owning hotels and businesses, it's really good. And people like Claude Anderson, Boyce Watkins, Dr. George Fraser, they talk a lot. We need to have a lot more information shared with communities. And I think case in point as well with what Sister Darnisha mentioned is that, she mentioned the Mississippi Investment Company. One of the things that really helped her to get involved with that was the fact that there were meetings and explanations and conversations that took place to educate you and to raise your consciousness. So you see now why this is an important thing to become a part of. And also, I was just going to say, let's see, training. We need more training, according to what Sister Fania said about people going into a Black business and, people don't come back, they have problems. But we have to do more investment if we want to support Black businesses. We want to compete in the market. We've got to train our people, get better with customer service training, to get business owners to know how to run businesses. And I think the last thing I was going to say was, yeah, that was it, training. So, oh, and the other thing was just developing some blueprints, like WOSE could actually market some blueprints on that could be sold to lots of people on how to run, you know, putting businesses together and supporting business. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Baba Damani?
Yes, hey, real fast, this book here is called What is Life? Reclaiming the Black Blues Self by a guy named Kalam Ya Salam. He's from New Orleans. He used to be the director, executive director of the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation. And what he quickly found out, and the last chapter of his book is about where do we go from here, is about carving out a niche in the music industry. He found out very quickly how lucrative the music industry was, and that we are putting on the show, and it's called show business. We're putting on the show, other people running the business. And so, you know, I'm thinking about getting into, I'm moving toward getting into entertainment promotions. But he said, you don't have to be a musician. It's people that own the venues, concessions. And for example, if you keep up with pop culture, is a group called, they call Afrobeat, is a new genre of music called Afrobeat. You got Wizkid and you got these Bernie Boy and these Sister Raheem. And anyway, these Nigerian superstars, they was in Sacramento a couple months ago. And I went downtown to pick up Brother Leroy, and it was like 25,000 kids. They was coming from everywhere. And I stopped and talked to people. I asked, what's going on? And they was coming to see these Nigerian superstars for the weekend. And it was like a street festival. And they paid $140 per person. It's like 25,000 people down there. They paid like $140 per person. This is Afrobeat. So if you ever get a chance, you can Google, not Google, YouTube videos, Afrobeat. And you can see how it's kind of taken over hip hop now, Afrobeat. That's a fusion of African and African-American music forms. For example, you just saw in Houston, you had some guy down there, you had that stampede in Houston. It killed like 8 or 9
Scott, yes.
Right, you realize how many people was in there? They let too many people in there, but I'm saying there was like 50,000 people in there paying over $100. And there's a lot of money in the music industry. And he suggests that, you know, we look at the music industry, not only for, you don't have to be a musician. It's all kind of horizontal and vertical businesses in the music industry. And because if you go back to Harlem, the Harlem Renaissance, the cotton clubs and the jazz clubs, we got the musicians, we got the entertainers. You know, we are the most creative people. We're gonna keep bringing up musicians for other people to make money off of. And so, man, I mean, this is, anyway.
Thank you.
It's money in gospel, rap, jazz, pop, blues, and we can bring it all back. Dance, it's all kind of stuff we could do in the entertainment industry, and we can do it together and have fun doing it. I want to do something I have fun at. I don't want to be bored.
Of course.
That's all I got to say. But I give a presentation, a historical tribute on it one day, and take my time with it.
Very good.
Very good.
Mr. Makalisi.
Well, we've covered a lot of bases, highs and lows, lefts and rights. We've covered a lot of bases. And I just want to go and read this principle, Ujamaa, cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. to build our own businesses, control the economics of our own community, and share in all of its works and wealth. And there's just so many ways that that can be done. So many approaches that we've heard a good number of them this evening. And so if we as individuals, yeah, you know, we've heard it time and time again that economic illiteracy is a strong force, a strong negative force in so many communities, including particularly the African American community. Economic illiteracy. We need to grow in knowing what to do with those funds that come into our hands, under our control, if we got control of our own minds, of our own thoughts. And so we need to be working on that. And so we need, you know, that those are for individuals. And as an organization, what are we going to do about it for ourselves, with ourselves? We need a committee, a commission. Sister Rhonda mentioned a couple of commissions. All of our commissions, we need as a community to sit down and say to the commission, this is what we want you to work on. I mean, we can get together as a community and come to some conclusion about those things, whatever the commission is. But when we get to this economic Ujamaa, it may be on the existing commission, maybe it has to be one that we start, a new commission. But we want to get all the information that we can, understand it as thoroughly as we can, work with existing organizations, economic enterprises that are making sense, especially in conjunction with our principles, who we are. You know, we're not out to exploit anyone. We're out to use what is under our control in a righteous, legal, moral way that it should be done, and get our people to think and feel and act that way. So we need a commission that's working steadily on that. It's been said, when we come to these NGUZO SABA principles, that the one we've made the least progress on is Ujamaa. I've heard that any number of times. So we need to be about, no, we're going to turn that around. That's not going to be the case anymore. It's not that we've been perfect with all the rest, but it's been said with Ujamaa, we've been the least successful, the least progressive. And so we need a body within our community that's working diligently on this area, addressing all the different approaches, the ups and downs, the ins and outs, and coming up with some effective moves that we can make that are going to be beneficial for us as a community, beneficial for some individuals. We need to talk to Sister Darnisha. Tell us about this Bitcoin thing. You know, I've seen it advertised, and you know, I haven't put any time into studying it, but she's got just, you know, some information about it. So we need to, you know, give this some real serious attention, consistently, diligently. So by the time we get on this next year, we'll be celebrating. You know, maybe a small celebration, but we'll be celebrating. We'll have achieved some things that'll be foundation for the following year. So, you know, like I said, in my view, this has been a good back and forth, good discussion, good presentation this evening. Minister in Training, Brother Bill, you've done an excellent job with your presentation. I think, you know, everyone that has spoken, you know, has just went into their own heart and soul and brought their experiences, their desires forward. So we need the commission of Ujamaa to work on these things, contact folks, contact organizations, and move us ahead on this economic path. It's my view. And so I just give thanks that we were here. We're going to, you know, continue in our prayers for and with our Minister Imhotep and his family, that he wasn't able to be with us, that he's, you know, got those physical challenges. and
I
others.
will email him a copy of the chat, and everybody here can get a copy too. So click that button, get your own copy. Mr. Mahalisi.
And here's the cover of that book. As you see, she's a nice young Black woman who wrote this book, Get Good with Money. That's another something that I started at the beginning of the pandemic. I bought her book in 2019. Get Good with Money.
What's her name? How can we look it up? Where can we find it?
Tiffany Aleche, and I found her. She would pop up on YouTube and on Facebook doing, she has stuff that she sells. I didn't buy anything except for the book.
All right, Get Good with Money.
Yes, just some very, very simple things. Some of you guys may already be doing these things, but I'm gonna tell y'all, I was a fiscal failure, and I have really been trying to get better with that stuff over the last couple of years. So this pandemic, has given me this downtime. But Tiffany, reading her book and just simple things like writing stuff down, nothing earth shattering, nothing mind blowing, but it really helped me to. I still have a ways to go, but I'm so much further than I was between, her and then getting the confidence of actually seeing some money grow in Bitcoin.
So final thing I would like to say, when we get ready to have the next Council of Elders meeting, we need to bring this item to the agenda. We would like to have, whether it's one of the existing commissions or a commission that we need to start, we'd like to have an ongoing, diligent effort, energy put into progress and power to be developed under this principle, Ujamaa. So we can no longer be able to have anyone say it about us that the area in which we made the least progress is Ujamaa. No, we're going to change that. We got a new revolution that's going to happen. Put that on the agenda, and let's make the changes that are necessary for progress in that area to be the result. All right. So it's oh my goodness, over there it's only 7 o'clock. Huh? Over here my clock is saying 9:58. But we've had a good 2 hours, I do believe.
Time to pull together.
Yes, indeed. And so we will do that. That song that was played earlier, it says, the best things they say in life are free, but we better organize economically. The future that we as a people need requires Ujamaa from you and me. And so let's be about that business. So
great presentation.
We would like to have a closing prayer. If anyone there wants to volunteer for it.
I got you, Minister.
All right, Sister MIT Rana.
Divine Creator, Mother, Father, God, we thank you again for an opportunity to come together to share and learn about the way. We thank you for this opportunity on this Wednesday evening to speak freely, to speak earnestly, to speak with enthusiasm and excitement, to share information about how we can enrich our community, about how we can help to lift up our people, about how we can join hands and lift our prayers, lift our monies, lift our lives together as one, because we are stronger together. We thank you, Creator, for putting on our minds and not letting our minds go dull because something may not happen the first time, but there's always the second and the third and the fourth still waiting for us to run up at it again. And we know that you will unlock the doors when we are ready. And I say for us, we are ready. Creator God, we thank you one and all for this church. Woze, Ashe.
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 Ashe. Well, look forward to seeing you all on Sunday, if not sooner. and more. Ashe,
Ashe, Harambe.
Kujichagulia.
And praying for Minister Imhotep to feel better.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yes, for
Let's
sure.
not forget Mama Rose Jones
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and others that
And others.
it's all of our community, all of our people.
Mhm.
We need to keep each other in prayer.
And let me just say earlier, I was trying to pull together a group prayer, but it was a spontaneous thing and everybody were in a lot of different places doing different things. So I would ask you all when we sign off of this call, if you have 3 minutes, to please take those 3 minutes and we will still be in unity and pray for our Minister Imhotep and for his family. Pray for Mother Rosie Jones, the mother of our Menu Ampem, and as Minister Makalisa said, all those who are in need. So we don't have to be on the screen together in order for it to be heard as one. So just when you sign off, if you could just take a moment in silence and a moment in prayer.